What's good for Elon Musk is not necessarily good for America. In fact, it may go the other way around. So why did Donald Trump take Musk and a bunch of other top executives to China with him? Hi, Paul Krugman, again from a cafe. A little noisy behind me, but I hope it'll be tolerable. So Donald Trump has gone to Beijing. I wrote something about it earlier today, about the economics and about the generally pathetic state of the United States in geopolitics right now. But I want to focus for this video on the remarkable decision of Trump to bring a bunch of wealthy executives, in the case of some of them, like Musk, extremely wealthy executives, with him on a trip that is supposed to be something about serving the interests of the United States. America's corporations are not America. They are really have very distinct differences in interest from those of the general public. You may have heard the old line, what's good for General Motors is good for America. That's not exactly what the CEO of General Motors said. What he said is that what's good for America is good for General Motors and vice versa. But in any case, he said that a very, very long time ago when corporations were not, their role in American life was not what it is now. General Motors at the time was a stakeholder corporation. That is, it did not see itself as solely serving the interests of stockholders. It viewed itself as having multiple groups that had a stake in the company. There was the workers who were represented by a powerful union. There were customers who were considered to be part of the story. There was a kind of community responsibility. Don't want to romanticize it too much, but General Motors was in fact not just the stock of GM, not back then. These days, we live in a world in which corporations more or less ruthlessly maximize value for the stockholders, except when they ruthlessly maximize value for the founder, who is considered to be the owner. So not entirely clear that Tesla is run in the interests of Tesla stockholders. To a large extent, it's run just in Elon Musk's interests. But it's certainly not run in the interest of U.S. workers or U.S. national security or anything like that. Why then should we care? It's probably worth knowing that to the extent that corporations are run in the interest of their stockholders, the stockholders of an American, in quotes, corporation are by no means necessarily American. We think that something like 40% of U.S. equities are owned by foreigners. So anything that enhances the profits of corporations, you should think of 40 cents on the dollar of that gain actually going to other countries anyway. And among Americans who, stock ownership in the United States is extremely concentrated in the hands of the top 10% of the population. A large fraction just in the hands of the 1% or less. And most Americans have very little stake in stock prices. They may have some stake in the success of business in the United States, but that doesn't have to be what we consider American corporations. And it's not even really right to think of Tesla or NVIDIA, which is Jensen Huang also went to China, as being somehow America going to China. This is corporations that serve stockholders around the world, serve some tech bros who have a special control over them. That's kind of the story. What they want is profits. What they want that includes access to the Chinese market, being able to sell China stuff that from the U.S. national point of view, maybe we shouldn't be allowing them to sell. Highly sophisticated equipment that on national security grounds we should actually try to restrict the access of fundamentally unfriendly powers to. But that's what's good for NVIDIA is definitely not good for America. What's good for Elon Musk is more problematic, but there's very little reason to think that any business advantages that Tesla might gain out of this, or XAI, or whatever enterprise he's hoping will realize some gain, that this is going to redound significantly to the benefit of U.S. workers. To the extent that it redounds to the benefit of these guys, the people who are on the plane, why should we care? An extra $1 billion in the hands of Elon Musk or Jensen Huang doesn't do anything for the great majority of Americans. And yeah, it does something for them, but not very much, right? When you have that much money, $1 billion here, $1 billion there, and what's the difference? So this is a really peculiar group to be taking, unless you try to think about what does Donald Trump want. Well, from Trump's point of view, I mean, some of it is, his son Eric, who runs the family business, was on the plane. Now, they claim it's just a family thing. Yeah, right. And he might as well have been walking around Beijing with a sign that says in block capitals, of course, this being Trump, bribe me. That's very clearly what that's about. And as for the rest, well, these corporations are Trump's base, or at least they gave him a lot of money, both in campaign funds and directly in one way or another. Still wondering, why do we need $1 billion for that ballroom? I thought the corporations were paying for the ballroom by bribing Trump, but maybe I don't know where that money is going. Anyway, whatever the story, this is not U.S. national interests being represented here. The whole visit, aside from the fact that it's humiliating, that's really a pathetic display of U.S. weakness and Chinese strength, the whole visit is also yet another spectacular example of the corruption that now pervades everything about U.S. governance. And we should be angry, we should be outraged, and we certainly shouldn't allow Trump and company to spin whatever comes out of this as a victory. It's we mostly defeated ourselves here, but we certainly aren't getting anything for us. Maybe something for Elon Musk comes out of this, but there's nothing for the rest of us coming out of this essentially tributary visit to China. Take care.